إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له هو الأول والآخر والظاهر والباطن وهو بكل شيء عليم وأشهد أن حبيبنا ومولانا وسيدنا محمدا عبد الله ورسوله أرسله تعالى بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون. اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على هذا النبي الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. أما بعد. Dear brothers and sisters, if I was to ask you what is our purpose on this earth, why are we here? Many of you would respond and correctly respond and say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وما خلقت الجن والإنس إلا ليعبدون, that Allah has not created us except for the purpose of worship. And that is our sole purpose of being here in this world. And as we said, that is absolutely a correct Islamic concept. But then that brings another question, and that question is, what is the primary reason for worship itself? Why do we worship? Is it for the sake of worship in and of itself? Or are there some other benefits that we gain from that? Is it a means to an end? Is it a way for us to become moral human beings and to become closer to Allah? And of course that's absolutely a correct notion as well. But this concept of, is it a means in and of itself? One of our great scholars, Imam al-Shatibi, rahimahullah ta'ala, he wrote one of the great philosophical works on Islam, Muwafaqat, and he said in that book that worship is a fundamental aim in and of itself. Allah told us to worship Him, so we worship Him. So that is a goal in and of itself. And one of our great contemporary scholars, Sheikh Yusuf al-Qaradawi, Hafidhahullah ta'ala, he said something very nice too. He said that they, meaning the secularists, they claim that the ibadat are merely means to achieve a certain purpose. We're talking about people who are secular in nature, not whose focus is on Allah. They claim that ibadat are merely a means to achieve a certain purpose, and whenever the purpose is achieved, then there is no need of the means. And unfortunately, some people took this attitude in the course of Muslim history. In other words, that I don't need salah in my life because I'm already close to Allah, or I'm already a good person and therefore I don't need it, and so I leave it alone. And because they took this faulty logic, right? So we understand from that worship for the sake of worshiping is something not to be belittled, something not to be taken lightly, and something that is actually very important to us as Muslims. Some people, they say that, I don't feel, even though I pray all the time, I don't feel closer to God. Or, how is this helping me? Or, I don't feel that spirituality. And so we, at that point, somebody who finds themselves in that situation, they need to ask them some deep questions. And number one, is that really the case? That, when you worship Allah, when you stand in prayer in front of Him, you're not getting anything? Or are there other major faults or flaws in your errors in the way you're approaching this whole process and being connected with Allah? Or what is going on, right? But it doesn't mean that somebody leaves the action altogether. So today I just want to analyze what are some of the benefits of this one fundamental aspect of worship that we have as Muslims, and that's the salah. Why do we stand up to prayer 5 times every day? And what are some of the deeper meanings? What are some of the deeper benefits? And we'll talk about it from 4 dimensions. From the spiritual dimension, from the dimension of building our character development, from the intellectual development, and then also the physical benefits. And some of these are, very core concepts that we're very familiar with. But when we understand, subhanAllah, that Allah has created and given us a system where all of the different means that He has given us and made mandatory ways in which we worship Him, there's all of these benefits. We benefit physically, we benefit intellectually, we benefit because it improves our character, and we benefit because it lifts us spiritually in the salah, in the zakah, in the sawm, in the hajj, when we make dua, when we purify ourselves, tahara, all of these different aspects of the deen, you have these multiple layers of benefit. So it's important to reflect upon that, because it strengthens one's iman and gives us, more ability to move forward in our worship of Allah. So number one, in terms of the spiritual dimension, and what are the benefits of salah in benefiting us spiritually. If we look at today's world, and we look at all of the conveniences that we have, more than have ever existed before in human history. I was at the university the other day, and somebody asked me, they were talking about their classes and how they have to register for classes, and they said, well, how did you register for classes in your time? And I told them, when I went to school, I didn't have a cell phone. For young people, that's something astonishing. How do you live without a cell phone? So how did you register? You used to have to go on the telephone and, dial in and press the code number for the thing. And if I was to ask some of our elders in the audience, they would tell us much more, rudimentary systems that they used when they went through this part of their life. Anyways, we have all of these modern conveniences, but yet the level of stress, the level of depression, the level of anxiety it appears to be higher than it's ever been before. The reason why, the truth is that these physical products, these phones, these screens, all of the technology that we have, it does not hit the spiritual core of the human being. And in fact, it completely detracts from it, right? Would you agree that what we have and the things that we think are so good for us, and the new products come and the new iPhone is coming and this, it doesn't help us here, right? So when we look at prayer and what prayer, salah, meant for our beloved Prophet ﷺ and those that follow in his footsteps, and we ask Allah to make us from those who follow in his footsteps, what did it bring to them? It brought them something that none of this stuff can bring: comfort, peace, tranquility. When the Prophet ﷺ, before he would stand for prayer, he would tell Sayyidina Bilal to get up. قُمْ يَا بِلَالِ وَأَرِحْنَا بِالصَّلَاةِ. Stand up, Bilal, and give us comfort with the salah. Stand up and make the adhan so we can come and gather and worship Allah. It wasn't something that was a burden, but it was a source of rest and relaxation. When you talk about R&R, the R&R for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and for those that comprehend what salah does and how it keeps a person grounded in their life, they understand that that is the Muslim's way to bring comfort and tranquility to one's life. Secondly, in terms of the spiritual benefit, that prayer protects the spirit and the heart from being torn in this world. All of the hustle and bustle and running around that we do in life and the daily grind. When we enter into the prayer, what is one of the dua that's made? إِنِّي وَجَّهْتُ وَجْهِيَ لِلَّذِي فَطَرَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ فطر السماوات والأرض حنيفا مسلما وما أنا من المشركين. that I turn my face to you, Ya Allah. You are the one that has created the heavens and the earth. And I stand up in front of you trying to be an upright person. And I'm not somebody like everybody else who falls prey and worships worships gadgets and money and this and that. But my attention is to you only, Ya Allah. Right? So we turn only to Him. That's the primary focus. Salah helps us stay grounded on that all the time. Prayer, thirdly, is the medicine for all of our woes and troubles. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when the musibah comes, when the musibah comes, what do we say? We say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We turn from Allah, we come, and back to Him we return. And then one of the methods that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala empowers us with is this, وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَ الصَّابِرِينَ. Right? Seek assistance with patience and with prayer. And Allah is with the patient people. So this was the way. When we're stuck about what to do in life, we don't know how to act, we don't know, we have a tough decision. Where do we go? We consult with people, we ask and this and that's good. But then ultimately we want to turn to Allah and get that ultimate answer. فَإِنَّكَ تَعْلَمُ وَلَا أَعْلَمُ. Allah, you know and I don't know. So we go and we pray istikhara. Others, they turn to other things. Turn to substances, whether those be illicit, illegal substances or legal prescription sort of substances. Their medicine, and then what happens? Their medicine actually becomes their poison, right? If you don't direct your troubles and your struggles, and you don't take it back to Allah, and that's what we're supposed to take it back to. If we don't do that, then what happens? The human being naturally needs somewhere to go. And what people take as medicine actually becomes for them poison. And that poison actually will destroy the spirit, will destroy the heart. So the Muslim instead turns to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet ﷺ has said about him, Sayyidina Hudayfa has said about him that إِذَا حَزَبَهُ أَمْرًا صَلَّى. If the Prophet ﷺ was, he was something heavy upon him, then what did he do? He went to the prayer. So that became the source of guidance and the source of comfort. The next aspect of developing how this particular act of worship develops our character and our personality. What are some of the things that it does? So salah, it gives us boundaries. In a life that has no boundaries, right? We are free human beings, we can do what we want, when we want, and we have the ability to access anything, anytime. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instilled a system that if we follow it, it will keep us safe, right? It will keep us within limits. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةِ إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ تَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنكَرِ. Right? Establish prayer. Why? Because prayer, it keeps one away from evil things and perverse sort of actions. Right? It keeps you away. How does it keep you away? If a person's whole life is built on establishing prayer, right? This is your daily regimen, and it's done with your heart, it's done with your conscience. And we understand that we're not always at a full level of consciousness. Sometimes we're praying fast and because we're moving and we we have somewhere to go or this and that. That's fine sometimes. But when we do it and we're conscious of what we're doing, we're not just running to the salah and just becomes a thing we do, but no, we do it with consciousness, then it keeps us away. Because how can you commit big sins in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you have to go and meet Him in a little while, right? And then you have a small time gap, and then you have to meet Him in a while. how can one consciously be comfortable with themselves if they have salah established? But if there's a gap, somebody has left prayer from their life, the door is wide open. And those boundaries are gone. The walls have come down. Somebody can go around and sneak around and do things even outside of their wife's knowledge, their family's knowledge, the other people that are close to them. They can sneak around and do things. But you can't sneak around from Allah's knowledge. He always knows. And if you're conscious of when you pray, you know that. And it's not an easy matter. How can you hide from that? Also, it builds our character, salah brings our character, because one whose life revolves around bowing and prostrating and standing before Allah and sitting before Allah, they will never lower themselves to another human being. Right? Somebody who understands what they're doing when we're praying. And when we're praying, we're taking all of these positions of humility. And the lower you go, the higher you are in the sight of Allah. And when somebody does that, they cannot lower themselves to somebody else. Right? You see what's going on in Hollywood today, all of the mess of sexual harassment cases and all of these things that are coming out. There's wrong on many people's part. The victims, and we feel for them because they were put in positions where they felt it. But a person who has some izzah, who has some honor, who has some, who knows who they can serve and who they cannot serve. Who knows that Allah deserves from me this, but human beings, they don't deserve from me this. And as soon as I feel something that's wrong, as soon as I feel something that's making me bend to the will of other people, I'm not going to touch that, right? It's a great protective factor. When somebody says Allahu Akbar and understands that Allah is greater than anything and everything, will not compromise their principles. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Man a'ta dhilla min nafsihi ta'iyan ghayra mukrahin falaysa minni." A person that just gives himself up in just lowering themselves, and he does that not because he's forced to do it, but they're doing it willingly, right? That person is not from amongst us. A person's iman is not right. Also, the salah, it builds our character because we learn sakina and waqar. We learn how to be people that are calm and collected, and not people who are just easily, just strewn up. The salah is a discipline. And even going to the prayer, the Prophet ﷺ, he taught us something beautiful. إِذَا سَمِعْتُمُ الْإِقَامَةِ فَامْشُوا إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ وَعَلَيْكُمْ بِالسَّكِينَةِ وَالْوَقَارِ وَلَا تُسْرِعُوا فَمَا أَدْرَكْتُمْ فَصَلُّوا وَمَا فَاتَكُمْ فَأَتِمُّوا. Right? It's very easy instruction. This is very important. A lot of people are not conscious of this. That when you hear the iqamah, walk to the prayer. Walk to the prayer. And you are walking in a dignified sort of way. Don't rush. Look at the instruction of the Prophet ﷺ. Don't rush. And whatever you catch of the prayer, good. Pray. But whatever you miss, you just finish it. Make up those rak'ahs when the Imam says salam. That's it. But the salah teaches us that even in the process of going to salah, that the right life is not supposed to be this mad rush. Even when it comes to coming to Allah at that moment. Because if you come running, you're huffing and puffing, and you're not conscious on your prayer. What are some of the intellectual benefits that we get from salah? A central part of the salah is, of course, listening and reciting the Quran. Listening and reciting the Quran. This book that the one who purifies himself, standing before Allah, preparing his heart, preparing the way for an intellectual reception from Allah, to ponder on Allah's words. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَيُعَلِّمُكُمُ اللَّهُ. That fear Allah, have consciousness of Him, and He will teach you, He will give you. So when you open your mind to that, it allows for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to put knowledge inside of you that you would otherwise not receive. Another intellectual benefit of the salah relates to the Quran and its effect on the collective intellectual being of the Muslim Ummah. If you ask, 100 people anywhere in this world about different questions of the purpose of life, what the philosophy, what's the reason for some, these general understanding, human understandings, that philosophical question, you would get questions across the board. Even if you asked 100 people in California, even if you asked 100 people on the same street. But if you asked 100 Muslims those same questions, you would get almost a uniform answer, right? Because of the Quran. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Allah tells us that hold tight to the rope of Allah, the Quran, and that gives us that intellectual grounding of the Ummah as a whole. The last point, the physical benefits of the Salah. The Muslim, because of the Salah, he or she starts his day in harmony with the world and in flow with the universe. As the world is waking up, the believer is waking up, and the believer is waking up, praising Allah just like the rest of the world is praising Allah. وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ إِلَّا يُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِهِ وَلَكِنْ لَا تَفْقَهُونَ تَسْبِيحَهُ. Everything is praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you start your day off, you're starting with the rest of the world as such. Also, look at what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says. When a person goes to Jum'ah, praying Fajr with the congregation, بَشِّرِ الْمَشَّائِينَ فِي الظُّلَمِ إِلَى الْمَسَاجِدِ بِنُورٍ تَامٍ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. It's a beautiful hadith. That give glad tidings to those who walk to the masjid when it's completely dark. You take your car and you go to the masjid and it's dark outside. Give them glad tidings when it's dark outside, that when they meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they will have a complete light guiding them, right? So that's the benefit of that physical benefit. It's also an action that helps to combat laziness and promotes exercise and activity. The Prophet ﷺ, he tells us in the hadith related by Bukhari, he said that shaitan, he sits upon the neck of one of you when you sleep and he ties 3 knots. And he tells you have a long night, so sleep. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, فَإِنِ اسْتَيْقَظَ فَذَكَرَ اللَّهِ إِنْ حَلَّتْ عُقْدَةٌ. And if the person, when they wake up and they remember Allah, one of those knots is removed. And if the person, when they wake up, they make wudu, the second knot is removed. And if the person, they get up and then they pray, then the third knot is removed. And the Prophet ﷺ, he says, فَأَصْبَحَ نَشِيطًا طَيِّبَ النَّفْسِ. And he becomes full of life, active. And he says, وَإِلَّا أَصْبَحَ خَبِيثَ النَّفْسِ كَسْلًا. And if a person doesn't wake up in that manner, then you wake up lazy. You don't want to move. And you're not right. So the benefits of salah are tremendous. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us understanding. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ادعوا الله وأنتم موقنون بالإجابة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. So the benefits of salah are so many. The benefits of salah in particular, if you take the other acts of worship, you will find similar things. There are too many to go over. We didn't even touch upon the collective benefit of praying together. We just talked about the individual benefit as it relates to salah. Salah is that connection, is the sila between al-abd wal-rabb, between the slave and between his or her master. and he's intertwined. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed all of these secondary benefits, right? When we stand up and we worship Him, which is that ultimate reason. We stand up, we worship Allah because He told us, but then we get all of this other blessings and benefits, and that's why a person has to have a strict devotion and regulation when it comes to the salah. And when somebody has that established in their life, meaning they're praying 5 times a day, then you build on top of that. You build on top of that. And that's the way a person gets closer and closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, "Man aqamaha faqad aqama ad-din, wa man hadamaha faqad hadama ad-din." The one who establishes prayer has established his deen, has established his relationship with Allah, and the one who destroys it, who leaves the prayer and neglects it, then that person has destroyed the deen. Allahumma inni da'in faqulu ameen. Allahumma ighfir lil muslimina wal muslimat wal mu'minina wal mu'minat al ahya'i minhum wal amwat innaka sami'un qaribun mujibud da'awat. Allahumma a'izz al islam wal muslimin. Allahumma arina al haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'ah wa arina al batila batilan warzuqna ijtinabah. اللهم اجعلنا من مقيم الصلاة يا رب العالمين. اللهم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وأقم الصلاة.